Hello, everyone, and welcome to AM Golf Academy. My name is Lou, and I'm going to take you through this movement practice today. And I do use the word practice for a reason. This is just a practice. We're practicing all kinds of series of movements and postures, and some of it comes from mobility training that I've done. Some of it comes from yoga. Some of it comes from Pilates, and we kind of put it all together to create a whole bunch of body movements for the purpose, really, of trying to get a connection between our understanding of our own body, so we can take this great tool that we have and then apply it. In this particular case, our focus is on golf. So how we interpret the body swing or the movement to create our consistent golf swing is really what we're trying to get to. So first, what we're doing in this practice and these series of movement practices, is that we are just trying to discover different ranges of motion and how our body moves, how much range of motion we have, and then when we have it, are we strong and stable through those ranges of motion? So that's kind of what we're doing through these series, and it's not anything is particular to any part of the swing. It's just kind of holistic to put it all together. Okay, I've got a little bit of water with me, and now I don't have a yoga mat today. I usually do have a yoga mat, but today I just decided to go without it, so I'm just barefoot onto the floor. And I'm going to bring the arms to the side. Now, before we start, I always a lot of people kind of joke around as to, oh, do you know what he made us do? Well, I'm going to ask you to blow your nose. Just make sure your nasal passages are clear. We focus a lot on breathing just to keep our nervous system in check and more in a calm state. And in order for us to get there, it is much more desirable and effective and efficient for us to breathe through our nose. So if your nose is plugged, you can't breathe through your nose. So do the best you can. Just do a little bit of a tissue love with that, put it aside. And then when you're all set and ready to go, just have your arms by your side. You're going to stand tall. You're going to rock your weight a little bit side to side just to get started. I'm going to roll off the edges of the feet. And I'm going to come back to center with more flat-footed here and move side to side, come to center, and then rock the heels up and down a few times. Okay, and then once we just do that, get a little bit warmed up down there, we are going to come to a still position. Try and crunch the toes a little bit and bend your knees slightly. Maybe feel yourself pushing down into the floor. And then we're just going to take a nice big breath in through our nose. Breathe in nice and deep. Hold it there for a second or so, maybe two, and open your mouth and fully exhale. I'm going to repeat that a few times, taking active control of our breathing. Breathe in through your nose. Hold your breath for a second or two, open your mouth, and exhale. Continue that pattern as I guide you through the breathing process here. Now, what you're trying to do is breathe in deep through that nose and bring it all the way down. Imagine that you're just taking that breath down, 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 really as far as down as you can go, and then you just take it back up. So in other words, when you're breathing in, you want to keep this chest area calm, okay? So no movement of the shoulders. We don't spike anything up to our ears. We just keep everything nice and low and breathe deep into that belly space. Now, to even help us along with this, you're going to take your right hand and just put it onto your belly, and then your left hand is just going to tuck onto behind your lower back. And now you're going to imagine breathing into these two spaces. So again, imagine the breath is coming in past your chest, down into the space here, and then the front and the back inflate, and then you hold, and when you exhale, press your hands back into your body to get that full exhalation. So let's cycle through a couple of those. Breathe in deep. Hold for a second or two, and through the mouth or through the nose, fully exhale. And then when your lungs are empty, you will hold your breath again for about a second or two, and then just repeat that pattern, just like a wave. There's kind of no beginning, no end, or no middle. It just kind of comes and goes. Maybe 4 seconds, 5 seconds even in length. Now you're going to bring your hands to the sides, and you're going to try and breathe into the sides now. So it's both the front and the back, like you were just doing now, and also into the side. So think about this shape here. If you look at my body, the shape is like a can. When you breathe, you're trying to imagine turning the can into more of a drum-like shape. Okay, more drum, and that's all the way 360 as well. So whether it actually happens or not, it's more the energy that you're creating to really fill the lungs up. And that's really, all of that is really just to say it's step one. Step two is then to fill the chest up. So when then all of this is done, then the chest finally flares a little bit and fills up, and then everything goes back down again. So try and cycle through that. And again, your mind's eye, what you're thinking about is taking that breath down to your toes and all the way up to the crown of your head. And that's how that breathing pattern works. Okay. And then you just try and stay with that conscious, active breathing for the next little bit as we start to move our body around a little bit. I'm going to take the arms to the side, slight head movement just from side to side. Go to the left, come to the right, just stretch it out a little bit. Take a moment to stay in one side. Keep turning your head past the shoulder. Go to the other side. Hold there and really stay active here. Come back through center. Lift the head up. Now you're looking up at the ceiling, your lips are closed, but you're going to drop your ear from side to side as you look up to the ceiling. So you're looking up, but you're turning your head side to side. There's no rocking motion of the rib cage. It's just your head. Try and really isolate this movement. It's super important for us to get head and neck isolation mastered as much as we can, much as range of motion. Okay, now I'm going to start to look forward and down. I'm going to put my chin into my chest and again, turn the head a little bit from side to side. Some of these lighter movements that we're doing are great to do just before you're about to play around. I suggest you always take about 10, 15 minutes or so if you can, just to warm up a little bit before you start to play. All right, back to center position. Look straight ahead. Turn your head to the left side. Just go as far as you can go. Drop the ear to the shoulder. And about half speed or so, we're going to do a head circle to the other side, all the way down and across. Look at the floor. Let's do some slow head circles. We'll do about 3 of them in each direction. So I'm going to go this way first. Nice big circle. And through center, good stuff. Turn your head to the right, drop the ear to the shoulder, and then you circle around in the other direction about 3 times. Okay, and then the last one, back to center. All right, one last one for that hold neck space. I'm going to turn the head to the right, to the left. Tuck the right arm behind you. That's going to keep the shoulder down. So think about turning the shoulder outward, external rotation. Turn your head to the left, hold on to the side of the head, look up, get a nice little stretch here. There's really no need to go past a tension level of 5 out of 10, 10 being the most. This is a 4 or 5. And then you look down. You're going to give that nice little tension, about 4 or 5. Look through the underarm. Let the tension go before you bring your head back. And then you're going to switch. Tuck the left arm behind you. Look to the right. Hold on to the side of the head. Drop the ear to shoulder. And then you look up. And I stretch here. Look down. Looking through the underarm. And then come back to center position. Okay, good stuff. Let's work our way through the shoulders a little bit now. Arms by your side. So we want the elbows locked. Let's just lift up and down. So we're moving the humerus, the upper arm bone here, up and down through the shoulder socket without anything else trying to kick in. So just notice, in fact, if you do have other body parts moving, we are trying to, through these series of movement practices, really learn how to isolate body parts a lot. All of our body parts working independently work much better as a unit when they independently work well. Okay, so up and down a few times. Now I'm going to lift the ears all the way up to the shoulders, send them to the back of the room, through the back pocket, and then forward for some shoulder circles. And if you happen to be in an area where you've got a mirror, or if you can actually just feel your whole body moving, slow the movement down. Try and isolate just through this shoulder area only. And then we're going to go back up and forward and back this time. And trying to stand as tall as you can, no movement through, no flexion or extension through the spine at all, if we can manage that. Okay, and we'll do that last one. Now we're going to do a couple movements just with the arms going straight up. And then the arms go back. Just do your own, no matter what it looks like for now. Just try and figure out and kind of maybe see if your whole body's kicking in, if you're doing this flexion and all this kind of stuff. And then you're going to stop, bring your left hand to your chest, and then lift the right arm up, slow, just until you feel the ribs pushing into your hands. You're going to stop. Tuck down a little bit and try and move through the arm. Okay, so you want to keep the rib cage not flaring or extending through the back. We're trying to create the movement just from that arm on our own. Okay, so you go back and then you come down, and we do the same thing here. The elbow is straight. How far can you go before you start to lean forward? So figure that out. Find a range of motion, and then you go up. You'll notice there's no hyperextension here. There's no movement through my spine whatsoever. And I reach back, reach back, reach back, reach back, try and get a range of motion and strength. So this is my own muscle strength pulling the arm back. And to intensify this, if you wanted to build some strength doing this, you can hold a light weight of 2 pounds or 3 pounds or even a bottle of water initially, and then just work your way up through this range of motion. I'm really isolating this one side. And this type of work, there's kind of no fast way to do it. There's no, there's no secret way to do it. It's just nice and slow movement and getting through this range of motion. Okay, I'm going to do the other side now and just see what this feels like. And whenever we're doing right and left, observation is also important to distinguish the two. Again, the elbow stays straight just so that the movement happens from the shoulder. And I bring the hand to the chest, and then I lift up. And I'm definitely tighter on this side because I can already feel, when I'm doing this, I feel a little bit of pressure to push my chest forward. So I'm just going to look straight ahead, breathe, and then consciously think about the muscle tissue in the back here of the shoulder, pulling the arm back but keeping the ribs calm in the front. And I'm going to let that go and then go back behind me and see what this might feel like. And then right back up again. And then down. Okay, so we're going to do one more back here. And back to neutral. Now we're going to do both. Excuse me, we're going to do both arms just to, again, see what happens and how our torso and spine starts to behave when we do this with both arms. So the trick here when we're trying to find this range of motion, for many of us, we lift the shoulders up when we do this. You want to keep your shoulder blades behind you down. You reach the fingers forward, extending the arm, but the shoulder blades stay down. So I'm never doing this. I'm always staying here, and that's what gives me that range of motion. So try that and see if you can stand really tall, and then both arms go back and behind you, and then back again forward. See if you can stop any movement from happening. A good way to do this also is if you're standing, imagine there's a wall here behind me. You can see my butt and my shoulders of my shoulders are just the back is touching there. And I'm trying to do this. And then come down and go back with a straight spine. Okay, not bad. Surprised myself, actually. It looks pretty good. Okay, so play with that a little bit. Really good against the wall. So I suggest what you do is go against the wall, place your butt against the wall as if there was a wall here. This beam, you can see it behind me, or the frame of the window. Then the shoulders, and then the head. And then you just do that movement and see what happens. See if you start to move forward or if anything moves forward. And this is where we start to see some of the false swings because the shoulders are tight. So when we start to move, all this type of stuff starts to happen as well. And then, of course, that creates the inconsistency because sometimes you'll move this way and sometimes you'll move that way. And then the ball goes this way, goes that way. And so in lies the challenge. So nice and slow, get against that wall and do those movements. Another great way and another great thing to do against the wall to try and get a bit more mobility. Let's just lift the arms up to elbow height. Excuse me, shoulders, elbows at shoulder height. There we go. Okay, now if you notice my hands are straight, fingers out, there's no movement here. This is just going to stay nice and locked. And then what I'm going to try and do is turn the upper arms down as far as I can go. Now there's an end range of motion, but I'm going to energetically try and go a little bit more, squeezing that muscle tissue in the front and then I'm going to open it up. And same thing applies. I'm trying to avoid this type of movement here. Just move through the arms as much as you can, and then down. Not here, hands stay flat, and then this way. Now, the exercise for this when you're against the wall, so imagine I'm behind the wall behind me. You're going to do this and keep the forearms and elbows touching the wall, and then lift up and lift or drop down. No. Okay, so like the elbows start to come lower and the elbows go up, but they will be touching the wall at the same time. Another great way to do this is on the floor. Imagine I was lying on the floor and you were doing this with your arms down and up. It's a great way to loosen the shoulders completely, including the shoulder blades. So I highly encourage you to do these movements. They're not complex, but they're super, super effective. Okay, and then you will start to do this forward and back through range of motion. So there's so many movements that can happen through the shoulder. We want to be fairly decent at most of them. And then you do opposite. Okay, now bring the arms back here. See, I'm at 90 degrees. You're going to bring it 45 degrees. So it's not quite back to 90 in the front. It's 45 degrees. Hold this arm up, and then you go in and out. This is another one where you can hold a weight or a can of food, and you just go in and up, down, and up again. Range of motion, open up without turning the wrist. Okay, no wrist turning. Back to neutral, take the arm back, bring this one to 45 degrees, again, maybe with a bottle of water or a weight, out, in, noticing changes in range of motion between left and right. Kind of important, right? Left and right, very different sometimes. Without a lot of this range of motion, trying to execute what we're trying to do in that full rotational golf swing is almost impossible to do. Okay, shake it out. Let's take a quick little break. Excuse me. Okay, we're going to still step into the shoulders just a tiny little bit. I'm going to show you differences in range of motion and how they actually affect whether we even think we have the range of motion or not, and then what can we do with that. Take the right arm straight up, so straight ahead here, and just drag the arm across your body. Again, you can go as far as you can go, and then the whole thing's going to turn, so we want to avoid that. Keep the shoulders forward, just go as far as you can, and then open it up this way. So we were doing all this up and down stuff. Now we're just going to do the sideways. And same thing, open it up without turning. So there's no turning of the rib cage, okay? And bring your hands through the ribs and or around the chest here. And then again, you can go in, go out, go in, hold here. Now take the right hand to the back of the shoulder, grab onto that elbow, and then take it all the way. There you go. So you're just giving yourself a little bit of extra. And so you'll notice there's actually quite a bit of range of motion here when you do this. In fact, it feels really good. I get a nice stretch here through the shoulder. And the right hand just goes onto my back here. So this is considered more of a passive range of motion because we're holding on to it here and we're just passively holding on to it. The active range of motion is this. Passive is this. In fact, it's quite a bit more. In terms of degrees, it's probably another 10 degrees that my shoulder just went without me turning around. So all of this matters. Imagine if you have another 10 degrees in your rotation, how different your golf swing is going to be if you add 10 more degrees to a rotation that you can control. Okay, let's release, shake that out, let it go, and try the other side. Cross, 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 open, open, open. And tuck the right arm behind you if you like, or just go off to the side and make a fist. And then in, out, in, bend the elbow, hold on to your back, and then let's give that a little bit of a hug coming in. Oh, that feels nice too. Feels pretty good actually. Nice stretch. Okay, and then we'll release and let that go. Okay, just a couple more little awkwardy movements here, and then we'll move on. So what you're going to do is take your hands, and we've all done this at some point. Interlace your fingers, get the palms to touch, and I'm going to lift the arms up to about shoulder height. And then I'm going to turn the hands to face the front. Try and straighten those elbows out as much as you can. I find this very challenging. I've had surgery on both elbows, and I only have so much range of motion here. So I'm focusing really more on my wrists in this position. Elbows, of course, too, but I'm trying to get really good wrist mobility. Hold there, stretch it out, get into a point of tension. This could feel awkward, and that's fine. Remember, we're trying to do some awkward movements. If we can do awkward movements reasonably well, we can do simple movements pretty well. Okay, and then we straighten that out. Do one more. Woo-hoo, I really feel that. I feel that in my fingers and my wrist. I kind of feel that everywhere. It's not the most comfortable position for me. And then the last one, and then we release and let that go. Okay, we're going to fold a little bit, and this is more for spinal movement. You're going to bring your hands, just hold on to your forearms, take your feet roughly hip distance or shoulder width, but it's no right or wrong, whatever just gives you that stability. And then you're just going to start to hinge your weight forward, drop your head down, take a breath, and then work your way back up. Lift the arms overhead. Get a nice stretch here. So you're pulling the arms back without any spinal extension. Okay, so just pull back and then bring yourself forward. Tuck your head down and then come on up. Next time you inhale. So the torso stops, the arms continue. And again, back down. I'll just do a couple of these. You're going to keep the arms overhead. Keep your feet in a position where you're comfortably balanced, and then you're just going to do some circles. I'm going to the left at first, and I'm going to try and create some circles here, full body rotation. Do this slow. Make sure your feet are firmly planted into the floor. You're breathing deeply. Don't forget that breathing, how we started, deep in and out. The breath is pretty long here, for 4 seconds, maybe 5 seconds as I do some circles in this one direction. Warming up the spine. And then we're going to go in the other direction. Go slower than you would like. Challenge the movement. You may find this a little bit awkward and even a little bit tough at times, with the core muscles are required to create this movement, especially if you're doing it slowly. Very little momentum. Okay, this particular movement that we just did, put that into your memory banks. That is one of the recommended movements that I suggest you do if you have a very little. Firstly, I suggest you do it before you start to play, before you start to get on the driving range. If you don't have the time to do a whole 10, 15 minutes of stretching, you're running late, that is one of the ones that I do suggest that should be like right on the top of the top 3 to do, especially if you've been sitting. Like if you're coming up from the city and it took you like a little while to come up, you've been sitting, it is dangerous and highly not recommended to get out of the car and start swinging a fast club without doing some of this mobility work. Okay, so that one is really, really important. The next one I also suggest we do is now move into the pelvic tilt. Now I want you to just think about this location here. So think about my pelvis as a bowl of water, okay? Just a bowl of water. If I tip forward, I'm going to dump the water out. If I tuck back, I'm going to contain or hold the water in. That's the movement. Tilt forward, tuck back. Tilt forward, tuck back. Now you can do this in a standing position. You can be up against the wall. You can hold a chair. You can do it onto the floor. You can do it on your hands and knees. There are all these variable ways of doing this type of pelvic movement. Standing, if you just bend your knees slightly, bring your hands onto your lap or somewhere just above the knees, arch your back a lot. So you want to feel that back arch. The belly gets a little bit soft here. And then when you take a breath, you exhale, tuck your tailbone under, and contract your abdominal muscles. Think about pulling your navel in towards your body. So contract, it flattens out the lower back, and when you inhale, you release it. So this is the pelvis doing a rotational movement on the top of your leg bones. Okay? So typically the legs move through the pelvis. This time the pelvis is moving through those joints. So we're going to try a few of those. And this is also a great strengthening and mind-body connection here to be able to create this movement with as much range of motion, as much strength and fluid movement as we can. Again, everybody's body type is different. Some of us will be able to do this quite a bit, and some of us will have some limitations and restrictions. But if your body is tense, you should typically be able to work through this quite well. It just takes a bit of time and a bit of work. Do this on your back as well. It's quite good when you're lying down. It feels good. Again, another highly, highly recommended series of just some light movements before you start to swing that club. And you can also do this anytime through the course while you're playing as well. I actually do this quite a bit. It just keeps that whole area really loose and flexible, and allows for all that movement to happen without the muscle contracting too much, okay? Really important for the lower back. All right, we're going to take the feet out just a little bit wider. Bring your hands to your sides. Now, again, I just want you to move the feet and toes around a little bit. So you're trying to feel a little bit more stable. Think about maybe, can you break the floor underneath you? If I told you to break the floor underneath your feet, how are you going to do that? Well, you've got to contract everything in here to start pushing down. And that strength is going to press right back up into your body to give you lots of strength here. And then you're just going to rock side to side, but keep both feet flat onto the floor. So again, the movement is happening from the pelvis. And I just draw your attention as well to my shoulders. If you notice, I'm not doing this. And there's nothing wrong with doing this. It's just what I'm trying to do is this. It just creates more shift, more of a sway type movement. Now, when I first started doing this, I was more kind of like this. I just did not have this range of motion. It was tight. So I was doing a lot of other leg exercises to try and get this really open. Okay, now let's just go to one side. I'm going to go to the left. So let's all go to the left. Again, stay pretty upright here so you're not tipping over. Engage as much of your muscle groups as you think you need to try and keep the movement going in that direction. Feet are equally planted. Come back to center. Now just hang on a second. Before you go to the right, start to put more weight, more pressure into your left foot, and then go to the right. Keep going. Keep putting the pressure onto the left foot as you shift a little to the right. Keep pressing into the left as you come back to center. Now balance that off. So now we're like equal weight. And now we're going to do this. More on this side. Be dominant on this one side. Push, 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 push. Notice what that's like. And then go to the other side. So typically when we go onto one side, it's this one side that's doing the work. What we're trying to do here is get the opposite side to do the work. Press and then pull. So you're pushing in to get yourself back up. You're not pushing in here. You're pushing in here, the left side, to pull you to center. You balance the weight. Go to the other side. And press more into the right. Push, 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 and then pull yourself back to center and balance it off. That's a really cool series of exercises to do, and they can get funky. You can put arms up. You can put the arms behind your head and kind of do it that way. So there's all different ways of doing that. But the side to side shifting without the upper body moving is also highly recommended that you work on and practice. So you can always return back to these recorded videos and just watch these series of movements. All right, hands come onto the waist, and now I'm going to take this side to side and put some rotation into it. So think about a big circle being around me. I'm going to try and do the movement here, not so much at the top, no head movement. And this is how you create that balance, because the head is looking straight. If you kind of look at my head, it's just staying on top here. I'm not going side to side. I'm not doing any funky things like that. Just trying to stay neutral at the top while this is doing the big circle. Other direction now, we go the other direction. And go back in the other direction. And this is the pelvis doing full rotations in the top of the femur. Pretty cool stuff. Again, you want a big sweeping range of motion so you can move freely through as much as possible. And then other direction again. Okay, good stuff. You're going to come back to center position. I'm going to show you something that requires just a little bit of balance, but I'll also show you the variation without balance. You're going to think about the digits on a clock. So from this position, let me start here. The right foot goes forward like so. I'm at 12 o'clock, yeah? Hands come at your waist. And then I'm going to lift the foot up and take it to 1 o'clock, and then I lift and go to 2, and then I lift and go to 3, and then so on and so on. You work your way back to 4, and to 5, and to 6, and you're trying not to compensate by leaning forward. So the leg may not go up too much, but just try and lift it, and then you work your way digit by digit on the way back. And the tendency also for many people is to look down, and that's going to tip you forward. Keep your shoulders on top of your hips, look up, do the movement. Now, if you cannot lift, if balancing is an issue, you're just going to drag the big toe to the digit, drag it to the next digit, and again and again. So we're trying to create as much mobility without the upper body compensating. So the range of motion, of course, gets a little bit less when we go, well, for my case, quite a bit less when I go back, but still not too bad. Not too bad. So focus on this, not on upper body movement, okay? So it doesn't matter how much you're moving. We're just trying to kind of check this out, especially if you're doing this for one of the first times or you've never done it before, then you want to just check this out. Again, if you see yourself in a mirror, or if you feel wobbly or all that kind of stuff, then it's just all work that needs to have some attention put onto it. Okay, and then we're going to switch. So then we're going to do the other side. Toes go forward, and this time you go from 12, work your way back to 11, all the way back to 6, and then 5 on the other side if you can manage. And I'm trying to balance. Go back, go back, back. And you can exaggerate the digits, right? So slow it down. Go from side to side and then just balance it out. Every digit is slow. So a whole bunch of stuff going on here, right? There's strength work going on, there's balance work, there's core strengthening going on. Right leg is firmly planted. And last one. Okay. This is another great one, not to do for a warm-up, but just something to work your way through for range of motion. All right, I'm just going to move this one tiny bit down. I'm going to show you one last one. So there were 3 that I recommended that is kind of a have-to when you get started. One was, remember, that big rotation. The other way to do the rotation is to give yourself a little hug and do the rotation that way. So that's something you want to do before you start firing off before you start to play. Do a bit of the pelvic tilt, okay? That's number 2. Number 3 on my top list is a 90-90 leg position. So you're going to come down onto the floor or onto the ground if you're outside and put your legs in a 90-90 position. The front leg is at 90 and so is the back. You try and sit as upright as you can, both knees onto the floor, and then hinge your body weight forward. The legs in this position, the feet are flexed, so we're not pointing our toes. We're bringing the feet up. You can bring the arms forward and then just try and lean forward as much as you can. This is a great, great stretch for the QL muscle that's required to create our twisting and rotation. one of the main muscles that we use, and we want that thing long and supple and flexible. And if we've been sitting in a car for a while, I'm guaranteeing you it's going to be tight. And this is another one of those movements that are my top 3 for sure. And I would suggest about minimum of 60 seconds. If you can stay there for 90 seconds or longer, totally fine. And you don't have to overdo it. If you're really super tight, then just go to like where I am, this type of position. If you're much looser, you can bring the chest even closer to the floor if you like. You can come all the way down to the forearms if you like, if you have that range of motion. Okay, then you're going to come up. Take the right arm behind you. The nice thing about this position is it just goes right into 90-90 on the other side. Kind of cool. Sit up tall, turn the face to front. I feel already that this side is much more loose. It's looser for me on this side, so I can probably go down quite a bit, oh, for sure, quite a bit deeper and easier than the other side. Again, 90-90 on the legs. And then rotate the chest forward, bring your rib cage down, and then just catch that breath or two. We're going to stay here for about 90 seconds. So number 1, standing rotations, which you can also do sitting, of course. Pelvic tilt, number 2, 90-90 legs, number 3. These are my top 3 before you start to play. And that deep breathing really helps a lot to just stretch things out, especially in this position. Your eyes, you can close your eyes. You've got headphones on, listen to some good tunes, and just kind of relax into the shape and go from side. You can stay here for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Go to the other side when you're practicing at home, of course, if you have a bit more time. And then you come up and back to a neutral position. Now, the legs can go a little bit in and out, back and forth. And that is our movement practice for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Took some of these nuggets away with you, and make sure you practice as much as you can. And definitely have a look at those top 3 before you get out and start to play. It'll protect your lower back and your entire body as well. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you next time.